HomeCare.com. I'm Rod Tanner.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday. And it is Friday. It's hard to believe. It is the last Friday of May. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Money Radio Studios, and it is the Friday right before Memorial Day, May 25th. And if you are just tuning into the show for the very first time, this show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And Health Futures is a play on words. We're coming at you from the Money Radio Studios, so they talk about futures all the time. And then taking stock in you, obviously, the stock metaphor. You know, we're wanting you, the listening audience, and the ones that you love and care about, we want you to take stock in yourself. And this show happens because I bring extraordinary guests to the show. And the guests are the ones that make it happen. And you have to listen to me ramble on every once in a while, but I bring you, our listening audience, incredible content by bringing great guests to the show. So the month of May is a month where we draw awareness to a number of different illnesses and diseases. And we talked about earlier this month that it was Mental Health Awareness Month. We actually dedicated 2 shows to it. For those that don't know it, it is Arthritis Awareness Month as well. We didn't devote a show this year, but next year we'll probably talk about that in May. And then the other one is Stroke Awareness. May is National Stroke Awareness Month, and this is something that is near and dear to me because I recently had a friend of mine who suffered a stroke, and I have a lot of questions, and no better person to talk to about my questions than my guest here today. And my guest here today is Dr. Jeffery Becker. He was here on the show back in July of last year. And Dr. Becker is a staff neurohospitalist over at Honor Health. And he also is the founder and CEO of this great innovative technology company called Beck on Call, and that's what we talked about on July 7th, 2017. So if you missed that show, you can go right up to our website at CypressHomeCare.com, click on the media button, hit the drop down. The third button down is radio shows. We got about 200 of them up there, but Dr. Becker was there on July 7th talking about Beck on Call, and we may talk a little bit about it today. So Dr. Becker, can I call you Jeff?
Absolutely.
Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back. So it is National Stroke Awareness Month. I know that some publications say it's the 3rd leading cause of death. Others say it's the 5th. But this is something that we all need to be aware of. And there are lots of signs to look for. And I wanted to talk to you about what those signs are. What are the things that we can do to prevent? What are you seeing out there?
Sure. So it is a big problem and a leading cause of death and also a leading cause of morbidity because even if you don't die from a stroke, it can severely cripple you. So the symptoms of stroke can vary. Our listening audience may be aware of the acronym FAST, Face, Arm, Speech, and Time, which has been heavily promoted by the American Stroke Association. A large number of strokes may present with symptoms of facial droop, weakness in my arm, difficulty speaking, but there are many different presentations of stroke.
And you being the individual that is with somebody and you're accustomed to seeing them, signs are those things that you talked about. Could be other signs too.
Correct. So an analogy that I typically use with my patients is everybody knows what a heart attack is. I have a clogged artery in my heart and I suffer some chest pain. And it doesn't matter what artery in the heart becomes clogged. It will always be chest pain, chest pain, chest pain. But in the brain, depending upon what artery gets clogged, the symptoms will vary. And we refer to that as a stroke, but you could also call it a brain attack, like a heart attack.
A brain bleed would be a stroke, right?
So you can classify strokes many different ways. A simple way is ischemic versus hemorrhagic. 80% of strokes will be ischemic. That's the kind where you have blockage of an artery, similar to the heart attack where there's atherosclerosis or rust in the pipe. Another subcategory of blockage of an artery could be a thrombus. An example of that would be somebody had a blood clot in their leg, went up to the heart, there was a problem in the heart, a hole in the heart called a PFO. We can talk about that more later. And it gets up to the brain. So that's a thrombus, not a piece of plaque, but some thick blood. So ischemia, rust in the pipe, atherosclerosis, or a clot, is 80% of strokes. 20% of strokes will be hemorrhage. So that would be a subarachnoid hemorrhage, hypertensive hemorrhage, the blood vessel, or aneurysm, the blood vessel ruptured and bled into the brain.
Wow. You've done a great job of explaining this to our listening audience, and I love the metaphor or analogy to the rust in the pipe. I mean, because you think of your arteries as pipes, and how do you keep those clear? And certainly, prevention starts with awareness. And I know that in just reading up before our show here today, high blood pressure is probably one of the most controllable causes to a stroke, correct?
Correct. So there are several risk factors that can increase your ability to have a stroke. Male versus female. Unfortunately, males are more likely to have stroke than females. High blood pressure, being overweight, smoking. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, we hear a lot about smoking, that's for sure.
Right. Most people attribute smoking as cancer. What patients aren't aware of is that, depending upon what study you read, 30 to 50% increased probability of having a stroke from smoking.
Wow. That's incredible. It's a good reason not to start, and it's also a good reason to stop.
Correct.
It is amazing that we still have so many that still smoke and smoke regularly today. And I know that, we have done a good job of getting the message out there, but we can always do better. Really looking at this, I know that there is a treatment protocol, TPA, TPN?
TPA. Correct.
TPA. So, describe that to me because, that you talked about FAST, and, that's a great acronym to use, face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and then time to call 911. That time piece is correlated or related to TPA, right?
Correct. That's the T in the acronym is time, meaning act quickly. So TPA was approved by the FDA in 1996. That was a multi-center national trial, thousands of patients, and it was that large trial, the National Institutes of Health Stroke Scale trial, that showed TPA can help reduce symptoms of a stroke, but it has to be administered within 3 hours. Now, that was back in 96, and over the past 5, 6, 7 years, we've done more studies, and there is a subset of cases where you can actually give TPA within 4.5 hours. But like any type of medical trial, there are inclusion and exclusion criteria, very strict. So 3 hours is the gold standard, but a subset of cases, patients can get it within 4.5 hours. The importance of getting that is to reduce the symptoms that patients may have from their stroke.
And the symptoms, typically, and I know this when my uncle had several strokes into his 90s, and each time he was able to bounce back. And he did have symptoms, slurred speech and numbness and stuff like that, but when the TPA and time elapsed, he got back everything, or at least from our appearance, he did.
Right. So when you look at the trial, TPA was approved, 30% of patients who received TPA had an increased level of functioning 3 months after getting the medication.
3 months. Wow.
3 months.
That's incredible. Hard to believe, Jeff. We're down one segment. Stick around. We're talking about National Health or National Stroke Awareness Month. I've got Dr. Jeffery Becker here. We'll be right back.
Bill Gunderson's Nationwide Best Stocks radio show is now on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., professional money manager Bill Gunderson will talk about the economy, markets, and the best stocks now. Bill Gunderson is also the inventor of the Best Stocks Now app and the writer of the weekly Best Stocks Now newsletter. If you like to invest in the markets, this is the show for you. You will not want to miss one episode. Visit GundersonCapital.com for more info. That's GundersonCapital.com.
Darren College, a former NFL Super Bowl champion, signed the most important contract of his life to serve in the Army National Guard.
I've had a lot of military in my family. It's a big part of what my family's done for a long time. I want to go out there and make a difference. I didn't find that working behind a desk, so for me it was a pretty easy decision to make. And then the opportunity to serve my community and serve my country was just icing on the cake.
To learn how to be part of the Army National Guard, log on to NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Arizona Army National Guard. Aired by the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you're struggling to pay or haven't been making your student loan payments, listen carefully to this urgent alert. Have you been out of school for 10 or more years and you're still making your student loan payments? Are your student loans past due or even in default? Can't go back to school because of an old student loan problem? We can help you if you qualify. Your student loans can be taken out of default. We can stop the wage garnishments, stop the collection calls, and stop the seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and see if we can help you reduce your student loan payments. One quick 10-minute call could solve them right now. So call the Student Loan Helpline now. 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832. This is a fee-based document preparation service to help you access free government programs. Call for complete details, not available in all states.
Memorial Day is this Monday, May 28th, and the D-backs take on the Reds for a 1 p.m. start. Arrive early and get the D-backs camo cap. Visit dbacks.com for tickets.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Got a little Coldplay bringing us in. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate it. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our second segment, and I got Dr. Jeff Becker here in the studio. He is over at Honor Health. He is a staff neurohospitalist. Did I say that right?
Correct. Neurohospitalist.
Neurohospitalist.
Correct.
He's also the founder and creator of Beck on Call. We'll talk a little bit about that. But today we're dedicating our show to National Stroke Awareness Month. And I really want to emphasize awareness, because awareness is the key word here. Because, you know, strokes are a fact of life. They do happen. And we want to make sure that our listening audience here knows some of the signs to look for. And Jeff was really kind to give us that universal acronym that was created called FAST, and that's face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to act. And we talked a little bit about TPA and that being administered. But I want to also give some other warning signs. And, you know, and they build on that FAST acronym, and that is the face, numbness, arm or leg, especially on one side, confusion or difficulty to speak or understanding somebody, because I have a family member who had that example happen and couldn't understand the person on the other end of the phone and called 911, and fortunately they got there in time. Problems with vision, such as dimness or loss of vision in one or both eyes, dizziness or problems with balance or coordination, problems with movement or walking, severe headaches with no other known cause, sudden nausea, vomiting or fever not caused by a viral illness, or brief loss of or change of consciousness, such as fainting, confusion, seizures, or coma, sometimes can be referred to as a mini stroke. And, Jeff, you've been doing this a long time, and, I'd love to hear from you some of the things that you're seeing and some of the things that we can tell our listening audience about the whole awareness piece.
Right. So all of those symptoms you mentioned might be a stroke or might not be a stroke. So we don't want to encourage our listeners to go get a Merck manual or go online and drive themselves a little batty, do we?
Right.
But it is important to emphasize that the mnemonic FAST only speaks to face, arm, and speech. There are different parts of our brain. There's obviously left brain and right brain, two hemispheres. Left side of the brain controls right side of the body and vice versa. The front part of the brain is memory, thinking, planning. Middle part of the brain is our language. There's two different spots for language. There's the ability to express the words, get the words out, but there's also the ability to understand the words. A stroke might affect both centers of language or one or the other. So you can see differences in the type of speech. But it's more common to get what's called a Broca's aphasia, where you have difficulty getting the words out. The vision is in the back of the brain. So patients may have visual problems. That is a very specific visual pattern called homonymous hemianopsia, where you have a visual field deficit in both eyes. Dizziness, balance, as you mentioned, can also be stroke symptoms. So the symptoms of stroke are varied. And if a patient ever has any symptoms and they're not sure, as you stated appropriately, get to the emergency department right away. Patients shouldn't play doctor. Let us see you in the right setting and accurately diagnose you. And hopefully, if we get you in time, we can prevent you from having significant deficits.
Why is it people are reluctant to call 911? Because, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm okay. I witnessed somebody have a stroke, and she was a nurse. And I won't go into the whole details of it. She was on my panel.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm having a spell. It's not, it'll pass. No, you're not having a spell. How do we get them to call 911?
So this has been probably the biggest reason for awareness to patients, is that all of these symptoms that we talked about need to be addressed at some point in time. However, when you're having chest pain, crushing, horrible chest pain, what's the first thing on your mind?
Having a heart attack.
And you go to the hospital, right?
Right.
But what if my arm is numb? I was leaning it on the counter, or I slept funny. Who hasn't woken up sometimes and sort of had that arm be a little bit numb in that, pinky finger because you slept funny and you shake it off?
Right.
So many times patients can have these symptoms, think it's something totally benign, not recognizing it's a real stroke going on. So you don't want to confuse the public, face, arm, speech, but dizziness, vision, weakness. If these symptoms are lasting 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're just not feeling well, there's something going on, call your doctor, go to the emergency department. Let us figure it out.
And don't be afraid to call 911. I mean, I think a lot of people, say, maybe, if it doesn't pass in a few minutes, maybe we'll drive over to the doctor's office.
Right.
I mean, those guys, especially EMTs, they can do some stuff to help reverse or at least alleviate the situation you're dealing with.
Correct.
Obviously preparing for our show here today, I read up a little bit more on stroke, and I love that I've got the Encyclopedia Britannica here. You really know a lot more than I ever could know. But, I mean, I talked about high blood pressure. But, diabetes is definitely one of the things I read, which is common for diabetics to potentially have strokes. And people with heart disease, you mentioned smoking. And then they threw in women on birth control?
Yes.
So, talk a little bit about that, because a lot of women are taking it for various reasons and not just for birth control.
Correct. So we talked about this offline a little bit, where we tend to think of only elderly patients having stroke, but stroke can affect any age, an infant, a child, or middle-aged male or female. So in a female who's taking birth control pills, they are at risk of getting thickened blood. Thickened blood can clog an artery.
Interesting. So just mindful of our for our listening audience, that if you're starting to see signs, even if it's in someone that is young, in their 20s or 30s, or even a child, react.
Correct.
Act. Awareness. That's really the key.
And please let the listener should know that. Don't think that, if I take birth control pills, this is going to happen to me. There are many benefits from birth control pills also, but if you're having some symptoms and you're taking birth control pills, go to the hospital. Again, let us figure it out.
So my friend that had the stroke unfortunately lost his wife about 3 months before he had his. And, I've talked about it here on the show that, he's on the older side, probably 70, 69. We have a lot of elderly folks, 65 and older, that are living home alone. And, it's one of those things where he now was alone, and he had a stroke, and nobody was there to at least respond to get EMTs there or get him to, the hospital or at least administer something till way, way beyond the time. You talked about 3 hours or 4.5 hours for the TPA. He is now over at Barrow, and he has right side deficits, and one of them is language. And it's interesting, if you could walk through with our listening audience a little bit more about right brain, left brain, because stroke typically happens on one side, right? It's not
Correct.
Usually both.
No, it's one side, right? One artery gets affected. And if one artery gets affected, that's one side of the brain, and then you're going to have unilateral symptoms, meaning I'm going to have weakness or numbness or both on one side of my body or the other side of my body. However, elderly patients also are at risk of having cardiac issues, coronary artery disease, heart attacks, weakened heart muscle, which can cause problems with the electrical system, and or something called atrial fibrillation, where I have an abnormally fast heartbeat, fast, slow, fast, slow. Patients with AFib have a 50% increased risk of having a stroke.
What?
Huge. Right?
That is huge.
And typically, when you see patients who have stroke from AFib,
50%.
50%.
And
50% increased risk.
And the cure for AFib is usually an ablation, right?
So medications or ablation. And if patients have AFib and they've had a TIA, we can talk about that in a minute, or have had a stroke, they need to be on an anticoagulant medication like Coumadin or some of the newer Coumadin medications on the market. Because only those anticoagulants help. Because what happens with AFib is the left atrium gets a clot. The blood gets thick, sort of like Jell-O, and then it squeezes up to the brain and showers the brain. You can have strokes everywhere.
Wow. I mean, I did not know that. That is incredible. And I know about Coumadin, and I know there's Plavix, and there's some others that are out there. We're at halftime, so I can't really talk more about this, Jeff, but stick around, our listening audience. Halftime here at Health Futures. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
President Trump has left open the possibility that talks with North Korea may still be on after Pyongyang reached out. Correspondent Will Ripley.
The statement that came out of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, very diplomatic, and I'm going to read you a portion of it. It says, quote, talking about the historic summit, we highly appreciate the fact that President Trump made a brave decision that no president in the past has made and put efforts to make the summit happen.
A male student is in custody following a shooting at a suburban Indianapolis middle school that left a teacher and another student critically wounded and another with a broken ankle. Noblesville Police Chief Kevin Jowett says the school and authorities have been trained to deal with such incidents.
We work very closely with the Noblesville schools. We always have. We've got very carefully planned procedures. They immediately went into place. They were working when I got here, and they continued to work throughout the incident.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average off 62 points, the S&P down 7. I'm Ann Cates.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call this toll-free number right now, 800-390-9528. That's 800-390-9528. By calling your addiction team, you're taking the first steps to recovery. The help you need could be one call away. 800-390-9528. Make the free call now. 800-390-9528. Your addiction team is a third-party advertiser for various treatment centers and placement networks. Individual results will vary. Visit youraddictionteam.com/terms for more information.
Looking for a pre-owned vehicle to help prepare you for the future? All Honda-certified pre-owned vehicles are thoroughly inspected by a Honda-trained technician and backed by an outstanding Honda Limited warranty for up to 7 years or 100,000 miles from the original in-service date. You could say we pre-screen each one, as a precaution. Visit HondaCertified.com and search for local inventory.
See your Honda dealer for limited warranty details.
If you're still working, you're still making money. But what about retirement? Make sure you have reliable income then, too. Keep listening to your Money Radio experts to find out how.
Bill Gunderson's nationwide Best Stocks radio show is now on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., professional money manager Bill Gunderson will talk about the economy, markets, and the best stocks now. Bill Gunderson is also the inventor of the Best Stocks Now app and the writer of the weekly Best Stocks Now newsletter. If you like to invest in the markets, this is the show for you. You will not want to miss one episode. Visit GundersonCapital.com for more info. That's GundersonCapital.com.
The Army National Guard is committed to keeping the country safe and our communities secure. Composed of hundreds of thousands of citizen soldiers from all walks of life, the Guard is always ready to respond to local or national emergencies. We protect the homeland. We're always there when called upon, and in every state and territory, we stand guard for our communities. To learn more, log on to NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Arizona Army National Guard. Aired by the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Want to fly somewhere? Looking for cheap flights or cheap tickets? Then call. That's right. Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. Low Cost Airlines has all kinds of cheap travel deals. Fly domestically and save up to 75%. You can even fly internationally and save even more. Yes, fly anywhere in the world and save a lot of money on your plane tickets. We'll even save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. So don't book your tickets until you call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels. Call right now for prices so low they can't be published. Travel experts are here 24/7 to help. 800-611-7394. 800-611-7394. 800-611-7394. That's 800-611-7394.
It's all the genuineness of an In-N-Out burger times 2. The In-N-Out Double Double. Double meat, double cheese, double fresh. Come taste the difference at In-N-Out Burger.
Vail with your money now. T-Mobile is getting advice from Corey Lewandowski, the former campaign manager for President Trump, as part of a lobbying effort to help the company secure federal approval for its proposed takeover of Sprint. T-Mobile released a statement saying it hired the lobbying firm Turnberry Solutions in August, and Corey Lewandowski is now affiliated with that firm. T-Mobile said Turnberry has offered perspective on a variety of topics, including the pending deal with Sprint. On Wall Street, stocks are now mixed, headed toward the close of trading. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 68 points. The NASDAQ Composite is up 7. The S&P 500 is down 8 points. Oil prices dropped to a more than 3-week low as Saudi Arabia and Russia neared an agreement to increase production. Crude futures fell nearly 4%, ending the week at $67.88 a barrel. That's your money now.
Lumber Liquidators is celebrating the opening of our 400th store, so we're putting over 400 floors on sale. That means huge savings for you. Get pre-finished hardwood and bamboo up to 36% off, including new styles like Mediterranean maple and bestsellers like Silverstone bamboo. Take 25% off all Dream Home laminate and 10 to 15% off our best waterproof floors. More from just 49 cents, plus special financing and professional installation. Hurry, get to your local Lumber Liquidators today.
Stocks are soaring, and construction spending across America has been on the rise. If you've been waiting to build, the time is now. Whether you want to expand your business or you want to build a new garage, call General Steel today. Our metal buildings are custom designed for your needs. For example, a 40 by 60 is a great space for an auto shop or 3-car garage. And if you call General Steel today, it's on sale now for under $25,000. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-957-8335.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and we're in our second half here. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park studios here at Money Radio. And obviously we're talking Health Futures. And if you're just tuning in and you missed the first two segments, go out to our website at cypresshomecare.com and click on the radio button. And you can hear the first two and you can hear about 200 others. So if you're just tuning in, I've got Dr. Jeffery Becker here in the studio. He is with Honor Health. He's the staff neurohospitalist, and he also is the founder and creator of Beck On Call. And when we left off on the second segment, we were talking about, obviously, some of the warning signs and the awarenesses of stroke. And, you know, Jeff, you left off with something that really, you know, it kind of hits me at the core because I have a family member, namely my dad, dealing with AFib. And you were saying that people that have AFib have a 50% higher likelihood of having a stroke. And you talked about anticoagulants, and I know he takes Plavix, and recently he was diagnosed with, or he was prescribed Eliquis to really help him with the AFib, and it has. But I know that he's talked about having, or his doctors have talked to him about having an ablation to really help him. But I did not know about the 50% increase risk of stroke.
And it's very important to let the listeners know that we use the word blood thinners all the time, very generic word, blood thinners. But there's two ways to thin blood. There are medications on one side of the pathway called antiplatelets. They thin out platelets. For example, when you cut yourself and you start bleeding and that starts to coagulate, that's platelets coming to the scene that get sticky and then you clot.
Right.
Aspirin and Plavix are platelet inhibitors, so they thin blood via one mechanism. But on the other side of the street, over here, are anticoagulants, Coumadin, and the newer oral anticoagulants called NOACs, new oral anticoagulants.
NOACs, there you
NOACs,
go.
For short.
The medical profession has so many acronyms.
So many. So Eliquis, Xarelto, Pradaxa, to name a few. And they thin blood.
I've seen all the commercials on TV, by the way.
Right. And they thin blood via different pathways. Some of those drugs have the same mechanism of action, but they're on this side of the road, and the Plavix and the aspirin over there. So if you have AFib, aspirin and Plavix won't help you. We know today you have to be on an oral anticoagulant in order to reduce your risk of having a stroke because you get the thickened blood from
the AFib. It
AFib.
doesn't have to do with the platelet.
Got it.
So, you know, here we're talking about, you know, awarenesses, and, you know, I want to, you know, I want to move on to talk about some other things that you're doing, but I want to really make sure our listening audience really knows signs and things to look for. And I never, ever knew about AFib, and maybe there's some others out there. We talked about also in the second segment, we talked about birth control pills for women, but there's probably other things that we should be looking out for.
Well, those are the big ones. You know, those are pretty much the two biggest ones. Exactly.
Don't smoke, and if you have high blood pressure, you are definitely, you know, in the throes of being at higher risk, having strokes. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that you're seeing as a neurohospitalist, and then I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about your Beck on Call. So, as you know, Jeff, our firm, our agency, has spent the last 3+ years really dedicating ourselves to creating a new care model for those that are afflicted with dementia and Alzheimer's. And, I know that we're all seeing increased incidences of it, and I'm just curious to what you're seeing, because you're on the front line. You're there at Honor Health, and like you said, like this weekend, you're on call on Memorial Day weekend, but you get called on for a lot of things. Are you seeing a lot more dementias?
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the hospital because it's an acute care hospital setting.
Okay.
So what happens is that maybe somebody has dementia, they're at home, they're doing fine, and they get a UTI, urinary tract infection, or a little pneumonia, or they get a little dehydrated. They become more confused. So they come to the hospital because there's now an acute confusion. They're delirious.
Right.
And we see them and we recognize that there's this acute confusional state superimposed on top of the underlying dementia. But when you treat the underlying or overlying infection, the UTI, the pneumonia, you give them some fluids, they immediately bounce back to their baseline. So I do see a lot of confusion in the hospital, but I'm not seeing that dementia worst thing in the hospital. I'm just seeing an acute medical condition superimposed on top of that dementia.
And you talked about somebody having already been diagnosed with dementia, but we also know that UTIs and other challenges that individuals are dealing with can present themselves as having dementia. But like you said, you give them the proper remedy, and next thing you know, they're fine.
Yeah, that's true. And it is also dementia I might see in the hospital for the first time because maybe somebody was living alone, didn't have family around, the neighbors kind of saw something was going on, and then I come by, evaluate them, and it's clear that the confusion that they're having is not an acute confusional state, but a baseline dementia progressive pattern. So, we will make that diagnosis in the hospital, but by and large, dementia is usually mostly evaluated in somebody's office because spouses and family members are bringing the patients to the office for this chronic problem.
We're working really diligently. Our listening audience who's listened in before knows that I'm on the Governor's Advisory Council on Aging, and I've been on this crusade to really draw awareness to dementias and Alzheimer's. And part of our mission, being on the Governor's Advisory Council on Aging, is really help with the awareness. And one of the areas that we're working really closely with, I mentioned earlier in the first and second segments about EMTs, first responders, is really working with that segment of people because they don't really know some of the signs. And a lot of times, especially first responders, and I'm talking about police departments, are sometimes coming into a scene that might be looking like a domestic dispute when that individual may be in a sundowning mode. And what you're doing when you're confronting them, you could be agitating the situation rather than redirecting them and helping them, for lack of a better word, talking them off the ledge and calming the situation down.
Very true. Correct.
So, we have a huge mission ahead of us. We have Dementia Friendly America. We have Tempe, which is a city that's dementia friendly. And I know that our governor has a goal to make our state a dementia-friendly state. So we know some of the signs to look for so that we can, at least as citizens of our community, be more aware of this person having maybe a memory challenge and not being somebody that is somebody that is just looking to cause conflict. How's that for you?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting ready to take a quick break, but before we take this break, just quickly, if you could, describe Beck on Call. What is your elevator speech? What is your stump speech? If you were to describe it to our listening audience, what is Beck on Call?
Right. We have and are automating the telephone answering service industry, making it easier for patients and hospitals to get in touch with their providers on call.
So there's the tease. So stick around for one more segment with Dr. Jeffery Becker. We're going to talk a little bit about Beck on Call, and then we'll wrap up that whole Stroke Awareness Month. So we're getting taken out here. Thank you very much, Wes. A little more Coldplay. We are down 3 segments. We've got 1 more to go. We'll be right back listening to Health Futures.
Retired or retiring soon? Looking for real-world financial advice? Don't miss one of America's best daily radio shows on retirement investing, Mastering Money, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with accredited investment fiduciary and Kiplinger contributor Steve Jurich. Listen as Steve lays out the strategies that can simplify your life, increase your income, and grow your money. Don't worry. Retire happy. Tune in to Mastering Money every day at 8 right here on Money Radio. See you there.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-865-0116 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-865-0116 to take your call now. Call 1-800-865-0116. That's 1-800-865-0116. Again, 1-800-865-0116.
My mom's a breast cancer survivor. The United Breast Cancer Foundation saved her life. And they need your help so they can continue saving more women's lives. Help them by donating your car. They'll provide fast, free 24-hour pickup, and you receive a charitable tax deduction. They take cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs, running or not. Call 24 hours a day, 800-475-6040. Your donation could literally save women's lives. Call today, 800-475-6040. 800-475-6040.
Memorial Day is this Monday, May 28th, and the D-backs take on the Reds for a 1 p.m. start. Arrive early and get the D-backs camo cap. Visit dbacks.com for tickets.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we're on our 4th segment. If you're just tuning in for the first time, I've got Dr. Jeffery Becker here. He is with Honor Health. He is one of the staff neurohospitalists there, and he also is the founder and creator of Beck on Call. So when we left off on our 3rd segment, Jeff gave us a little tease. I want you to repeat it again, and then let's talk a little bit about this new innovation that you are a part of, and not only you being a doc and a neurologist, but you're in the startup world. So what is that elevator speech you gave at the end of the 3rd segment?
So we automate the telephone answering service industry. As all of our listeners know, if you have an issue after hours or on a weekend, you call your doctor's office. And what happens? The phone forwards to an operator. They take down your information. And obviously this is a non-trained medical person, just a person. Takes down the information and sends the doctor a message. So just like Uber came to disrupt the taxi industry, we're here to disrupt that industry.
I love it.
Do you need a human person taking your message? No. What happens when you call Walgreens? Who do you talk to? You talk to an attendant. What happens when you call Bank of America on the back of your credit card? Who do you talk to? You talk to, you can press 0. But a lot of these things are automated. So we can take that call schedule. We have taken those call schedules and the complexities of it, because doctors like to cross-cover 5 guys working at location A, 2 guys at B, cross-covering on the weekend, who's on at night, who's on the Saturday night, etc. And we automate all of those messages to the right person. And it's not just patients that need to reach doctors on call. It's hospitals. There are strokes coming into the emergency department. We got to code brain. We got to get the neurologist on call right away.
Right.
Or a heart attack. That's called a STEMI. Right? We got to get the cardiologist on call. It used to be phone calls. to the offices.
It used to be beepers.
Exactly.
It used to be beepers.
Believe it or not, some of those docs still use them.
It's unbelievable. I remember being in movie theaters and someone's beeper going
Right.
off.
It's crazy, isn't it? So we automate all of that. The right doctor gets the right message at the right time. And for hospitals, we significantly reduce the risk because there's two issues with the hospital. Number one, latency of transferring information. And number two, making sure the right information goes to the right person. And then the third part of that would be having an audit log, because you need to have a log of all of these communications, and we do all of that.
Well, I like how you described it being a disruptor, because that's really what you're doing. And at the end of the day, it is a win-win scenario. I mean, it's a win for the doctors, it's a win for the hospital, it's a win for the consumer, and a win for Beck on Call. I mean, because that's truly your mission, is to make it easier for communication from the patient to the doctor or the patient's family to the doctor to happen, rather than going through a third-party intermediary who doesn't know the first thing about anything relating to neurology or related to cardiology or whatever the specialty is.
Right.
So you've been at it for how long?
We've been at this for about 4 years, I think, already.
Exciting, exciting. So this is kind of your second job. So you do that. When I met you, many years ago, you were in private practice, and I know that you love what you do, and you didn't bring it in here today. I love that doctor's bag you carry.
Oh, thanks.
That is priceless, and that is your signature item. But this Beck on Call sounds really cool.
Thanks, yeah. So thank God we're making a big dent in the market, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to grow.
Are you outside of Phoenix? Are you doing in other markets too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I can't remember exactly, but we're probably operating in 15, 20 states already with the clients and states.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So, as we kind of wind down the show, I mean, you have been a neurologist for a number of years from the great state of Ohio, and I know you're an Ohio State fan. And I believe you're probably a football fan, too.
Oh, yeah.
And the reports we're getting out of Cardinal camp about this Josh Rosen, who is supposedly lighting it up, kind of get me ready for the football season. How about you?
Can't wait.
Can't wait. I mean, we've got Johnson back in the running back form. We've got Larry back. So it is really nice to talk about football, because we really can't talk about baseball right now.
That's right. Yeah.
And I for our listening audience, when you were listening to us back 3 or 4 weeks ago, that's all we could talk about is baseball. But who knew that they would lose 13 or 14 games and be a half a game out of first place?
Yeah.
But you know what? At the end of the day, if you had told me at the beginning of the season that by Memorial Day we would be half a game out of first place, what would I think? I'd say I'd take it. So it's not so bad.
Not so bad.
Not so bad. So, as we wind down and really talk about, stroke awareness, I want to make sure we really leave our listening audience with some key things. And, some of them may be redundant going back to our first segment. Key signs to look for. What are some of the things that we can do to prevent having a stroke? So if you wouldn't mind, walk us through that. You gave us that great acronym, FAST, that everyone knows, but there are some other things that you probably want to leave our listening audience with.
Yeah, so I think the take-home message would be to remember FAST, because it's so easy to remember. Face, arm, speech, time. Time is critical. But for patients to recognize that those aren't the only symptoms. It might be loss of vision. It might be dizziness, imbalance. And if you have any concerns at all, call 911, go to the hospital, and let a professional figure it out. And do it fast. Make sure you call 911 fast so that you get there in time so that we can help you, God forbid, if you were having a stroke.
And it's not a bad thing to call 911.
It's okay.
I mean, they're there.
They're there to help.
That's what they're there to do. So also share with us, as we get ready to wind down the show, some of the people that are at risk. And I think that's the important thing I want our listening audience to take away. You shared, with us in the last segment. Actually, it was at the end of the second, and we talked about in the last segment about people that are at risk that have AFib, and I never really thought about that. But let's talk about some of the people that are listening in or may have loved ones that may be at risk.
Right. So stroke can affect any age, but certainly affects elderly more than younger patients. And in elderly patients, those things that can be risk for stroke include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, which could be any age, and then in females who are taking birth control pills. Sometimes those pills can have some adverse effects. So if any woman is having some potential symptoms they're not sure what it's due to, should call 911, call their doctor, come to the hospital.
And really, for layperson's terms, a stroke is when oxygen is cut off from the brain, right? Correct. I mean, you talked about the different types of ways clogged. You talked about the ischemic versus
hemorrhagic.
Hemorrhagic, but right. 80% on ischemic and 20% on hemorrhagic.
Correct.
And the hemorrhagic is what I believe my father-in-law had. Was he had a massive brain bleed, and just it was too late.
Yeah.
And hemorrhagic are probably the ones that you have least chance to survive from, maybe, or
it varies because a hemorrhagic stroke could be high blood pressure, so a tiny capillary may burst, and you could survive that, or you could have a big aneurysm in your brain that pops, and that's usually.
Well, look for the signs. We went over those here today. Don't be afraid to call 911. And as we wind down the show, I've got a little less than a minute. Jeff, you're on call this weekend.
Yeah.
You love what you do. But what do you got planned on Monday? Monday's your day off, right?
Hang out with the kids, soak up some sun, maybe travel up north. The idea was being tossed around a little bit.
Nice.
But just some family time.
To Lake Flag.
Yeah.
Right? Awesome. It's hard to believe this is our last show for the month of May. And I can't thank you enough for being here on the show, talking about a very important topic like stroke awareness. And you gave our listening audience some great tips. Also gave them at least an idea, and for me, some of those people that are at risk. So, Jeff, thank you for being on the show. I'm going to invite you back another time, but make it a great day, listening audience. Have a great weekend. We'll be back here on June the 1st. Health Futures, taking stock in you. We're out.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Financial market analysis from Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
Diversification is the key. You have to have diversification in these markets. And if you have all your eggs in one basket, when things go bad, you're going to get hurt.
It's financial food for thought on your drive home. Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Catch Market Wrap on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM Monday through Friday at 5 p.m.
Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa, Phoenix, and K287BX Mesa. You're listening to the Valley's only source for full-time financial news and money talk on the radio. Money Radio. Take a look at the numbers. Dow coming down to a close with below in the red and then negative 46, 24,763. It's moving on me. S&P down 5 points at 2722.
Talk about money. This is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin